I have a confession to make, dudes. I like manga. Oh, and now I've probably just, got 50 people probably just unsubbed because I said that. Here's the thing. I fell out of love with comics for a while, and I've been recently reading One Piece and Naruto and all the big ones, I'm working my way through some other series as well, but getting back into the love of making comics. There's something really cool about that. And I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about my newfound desire or love for just, the ink on paper, black and white, just the indie spirit, the creator spirit that I feel in these books that I've been reading. And if you can't dig on that, and if you're just too stuck in your own way of thinking and you're like, I can't hear anybody else's opinion. Basically, if you hate manga and anybody who likes it, well, then this video ain't for you. Check out my next video. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about this while I'm drawing Twilight Monk, just an ink on paper drawing that I'm working on right now. And, I'm just enjoying the process. In this video, I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. I'm not going to try to sell you on any idea that you should be liking this or enjoying this. I'm just going to talk about why I like comics again for the first time in probably like 10 years. And it really kind of all stemmed from One Piece. Specifically, that's the one that got me back into it. Now, I got my start making comics when I was 16 years old. I fell in love with drawing when I was 13. By the time I was 16, I was self-publishing. So I got my start doing it. It's all I knew for like 9 years before I started working in video games. And so I always had a creator spirit. It's something that I admired from the old, Image guys that started the Image comics movement and the indie comics movement in the 90s. And unfortunately, though, I had a lot of bad experiences with publishers. I would venture to say I had very few good experiences with comic book publishers. That's part of what turned me off to it for a long time. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Maybe you've experienced some of this yourself. But it was so discouraging and so frustrating that I just completely got out of it entirely at some point. Not to mention with manga, people just discouraged, Americans for many years just discouraged pro-American comic book artists from liking manga. You can't like that. It's Japanese. Well, maybe, somebody other than you can do something cool, okay? I'm not trying to tell anybody they're wrong. It's just, my opinion is, screw where it comes from. If it's freaking cool, it's cool. That's like suggesting you can't like blues music if you're not black. That's really limited thinking. But anyone who's tried to do it knows that making a comic ain't easy. And sometimes you'll work for years without any traction. You're just desperately trying to get people to notice what you're doing. Nobody notices or cares until everybody else notices or cares. And even me, I had a successful run on indie comics. I even worked at Marvel Comics for a while. And I got to tell you, man, there were times when it felt like an exercise in insanity. How delusional do you have to be to think that people are going to catch on to this once you've done enough of it? Like for years and years of, working hard at something and people criticizing it, ripping it apart online. It's hard to keep coming back, into the ring. And you got to believe in what you're making with such certainty and conviction, even in the face of getting smacked down by people saying you're nobody, your work isn't good, until everybody else starts to say your work is good. And then those people fight for you. So it's tough, man. The general populace, the general market was only interested in reading a comic book after there's a TV show or a movie deal. And personally, quite frankly, I have so little interest in working in Hollywood. I had some really bad experiences with some producer types. And it's just as, my experiences might be different for other people, but my experiences were just as slimy as, what you would hear about, So I got really turned off from Hollywood. I got really turned off from the, some of the business side of working with some publishers. But, I love the medium. And that's, I think, if you're with me on this, if you've experienced similar things, let me know in the comments. But I love the medium. I love the idea of it. I love the, you're directing little movies. You're making stories out of nothing, with just pictures. And as an artist, how could you not be drawn to that? As a creator, as a storyteller, as a world builder, a singular person can, in a sense, create visuals. The only thing that comic books are not, that they don't provide is music. And I wonder if that would change at some point, with these web comics and stuff. I don't know about the evolution. I'd love to pontificate about, or speculate at least on where comics could go in the future with music and, online web presence and all that. But the thing is comic books as a medium are just so intriguing because the sequence of pictures that come from a blank page can spell out emotional story. And one of the books I've been reading recently is I got hooked on the One Piece series. And little shout out to all you fellow One Piece fans out there. I consider myself a fan of this series. And it's funny because it's so different than everything that, for a long time, I feel like American comics and American audiences, have become obsessed with the flashy pinups, the anatomy, the dynamic superhero poses, and things like that, and amount of detail. I mean, in the early 2000s, I was a comic book artist at Marvel, and everybody just wanted that like insane amount of detail. Like, so you got to spend 20 hours on one page, 20 hours. Sometimes it didn't even matter what the story was. It was like people just wanted pinup pages. Why aren't you just buying art books if that's your interest? And I know a lot of American comic book consumers don't even really read the books. They just like the art. And they like the idea, again, the idea of comics. But as I'm reading One Piece, I'm just like smacked in the face with the realization of just how powerful this medium is. And, if you're not a One Piece fan, I'm not trying to or if you're not a manga fan, I'm not trying to tell you, oh, you're doing it wrong or anything. You should be able to enjoy your comics however you want. But for me, I fell out of love with comics because they became too much about the fluff and not enough about I don't want to say not enough about the substance, because I don't want to insult, comic book pros who are really aspiring their best to get good at all of those factors. But you read One Piece and it's so much more about the story. And not just One Piece. Also, reading Dragon Ball Z and the basically the top ones. Naruto is incredible. And sure, I recognize that the anime is why I'm taking interest in these things again. They fall off your radar if you're not really getting advertised to about it, or if there's no through line. In some ways we're all sort of victims of the zeitgeist. The new game comes out and so you're playing retro video games, but who cares because there's a new Final Fantasy or whatever, and so it feels like the thing to get into is the thing that everybody's into. And when everybody loves your art and your stories, then everybody else loves your art and your stories. And then it's a kind of a chicken egg situation. And that can be very disheartening because I remember working on a long story. It was, I'm going to tell the short version of, I was working on a story that was a long book. It was a long sequence, a graphic novel. And even my friends were like, yeah, I'll wait until you're done before I start reading it. And it's like, well, I'm probably not going to get to finish it if there's no support for it. It's a chicken egg situation. And it's like, well, if they were passing out movie deals, for books, I'd jump on doing a book again. If money was no question, then doing comics is like the freaking ultimate storyteller / artist's dream situation, right? Because you get to paint this visual picture while simultaneously writing interesting characters, working on your storytelling, your character development throughout the whole thing. And this is something that manga does very well. So to get back to, and I know I'm kind of scattered in this video, but it's because I have so much I want to say about this subject, and part of it is really just coming from a place of newfound love and appreciation. So if you can dig that, then bear with me, please. There's something about picking up a volume of One Piece that's 600 pages and knowing that there's about 30 of these. There's something really groovy about knowing that there's this long-running story arc that's not going to reboot or restart, and knowing that this is going someplace where new characters are going to join, and it really is like an RPG where new characters join the crew, and then you get to go back to their home base of where they're from and find out a little bit more about why they joined and or what they're running away from, or responsibilities or things that they have to deal with, and as a viewer it's like you're going on this RPG journey, and there's something so freaking cool about that, and it's the thing that I used to love about playing an RPG like a Final Fantasy, and you get that from One Piece, specifically, and I don't want to make this just about One Piece because I want to talk about the medium in general, but American publishers, American markets and audiences, I don't think that there was much of and I was told constantly, there's no market for this. And I was even told there's no market for a kung fu animation. And this was in 2003 when I was pitching Twilight Monk as an animated show. I was told we can't do that in America because it's got kung fu in it. And we don't know how to make that. If you're not Asian or Japanese or Chinese or Korean, you can't make a kung fu or a martial arts animation or manga or comic. You can't do it. But now if you look at statistics, like 70% of people in high school and younger read manga or watch anime. There's such a different take on storytelling with manga that I can really appreciate. And I don't think that like every book needs to be that way, but I certainly see that there's an incredible value in the fact that it's black and white. That I think that actually, and this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of this video, the color in comics always puts me off. And even in my own work, it's like, to pick up or speak to one of my favorite artists, Chris Baccialo, his work always looks so incredible in black and white. And certainly, even when it's colored best when it's just sort of flat or monotone colors. And part of that is just because the line work is so interesting. There's so much character in the line work. And I think that as both a writer and as an artist, that appeals to me an awful lot because it's not just relying on a flashy sort of superficial thing. It's really showcasing the skill and the line quality and the construction of a drawing, and not just that, the construction of the flow of an event, of storytelling, in those panels. It's so much more of a focus on what's happening instead of the flashy bubblegum wrapper. And I don't want, again, I'm not trying to say all comics should be this way or every comic artist should aspire to be this way. But as I'm reading this particular book, I am, at least for my part, realizing a better way to do a comic book story than I would like to do someday. And then there's more things, like if we were to talk about the appeal of making comics, there's something really awesome about having a body of work that is on a shelf. I've been working in digital formats for the last 20 years, working in video games, and there's not, sure, video games have a physical, you can get like a box copy of Burning Crusade, or you can get a box copy of even Fortnite now, but with a book, it's like, that's your name on the cover. That's your work that you did. You don't really get to put your name on the video games that you worked on in American video games. But who knows, maybe in comics, like, that's just feeding your narcissism. I don't know. Maybe I'm narcissistic. I have to analyze that. And certainly, like, I have my Creed Omnibus, the collection of the first indie comic that I made, but that's kind of out of print. It was published by IDW. I'm thinking about bringing that back. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a collection of my work brought back, maybe in a format like this, something like a 60-page or 600-page, manga style black and white collection. Is that something that I would love to see? Absolutely. I'd love to look back on my life's work and have physical, like, collection in a nice format, something that could be like a box set. When you look at, like, Akira Toriyama just recently passed away. He was the creator of Dragon Ball and also did a lot of character designs for video games as well. But point being, you can go out and buy like a collection of his work. You can buy the box set. I just recently bought the box set of Dragon Ball Z Tonkabons, and this is like a really freaking awesome thing to have because it sort of embodies years of this person's life. This was their effort. This was everything that they put their heart and soul into as a creative, as a storyteller, as an artist, all the things, the culmination of all the things that they had learned up to that point in their experiences in their life. And certainly, like, there's something that's going to be lost in translation when it's brought over to English. But at the same time, this is a massive body of work. And what more could an artist want in their life than to look back and have this body of work that is somewhat cherished, at least even by a small number of people? That's still more worthwhile than not having anything at all. And not to begrudge those who don't do comics or anything in print, but it's kind of a cool freaking thing to, from your art desk to the world, to your audience. And something else that I really enjoy about One Piece is that he puts in a SBS corner, which is basically just a comment corner in the back. It's something I really miss about doing a comic book as well, which is like getting fan mail. And interacting with people in a very direct way. It's something that it was different back then too, because you never got a nasty letter in the mail. But on YouTube, you'll get nasty comments and people just trying to get attention. They just want to fart in the elevator so they can get a little bit of maybe a rise out of you, so that maybe you'll react or something. They can, and then they can go, yeah, I got him, I got under his skin or whatever. But like, when you had to write a letter, nobody did that. Nobody like spent time and bought a stamp so that they could, put a stink on your day. I never once got a hate letter. I did have people showing up at my house. That's kind of a drawback. You don't want that. So there's a certain level of like, you don't want to be so famous that you have to blur out your face. Like Eiichiro Oda is known to be one of the wealthiest manga artists in the world. And some people admire him, I think, a little too much. Because he has to blur out his face. He's like, hey, it would complicate my life if people knew what I looked like. I don't want that. Why would you want that? That doesn't sound like a healthy level of fame. But one thing I do also admire is like, he makes it so much about the book. It's about the work. It's about the stories. And if he has some commentary to say about the world, that's like through his fiction. I really admire that. It's something that I really like in the books that I'm reading right now anyway. Doing a comic has a lot of challenges, some that I don't know that I'm ready for yet. So because my time has been so limited directing a video game and doing all the character designs and environment art for it and all that, the best solution I've come to is to do more of these illustrated novels that I've been doing. If you don't know, because working in games is so demanding on my schedule, the closest I can get to making a Twilight Monk manga or a saga of this huge scale of what Twilight Monk is to do these illustrated novels, which are basically somewhere between a manga and a novel, where, yes, you can listen to the audiobook on Audible, but you can also pick up the physical copies of these books or the digital PDFs over on my Gumroad. But these are really meaty stories, and I've done 4 of them so far, basically telling the story of Twilight Monk. They kind of act as like a precursor to the story of the game. And each of the 4 books that are out right now have about 70 illustrations each of just line art. Mostly done by myself and my assistant, Danny Kong, and they're available right now. You can go and pick those up in PDF or Audible or physical copies on Amazon. And that's, I would say, the closest I can get to doing a comic or doing a manga again right now. But hey, if I didn't make those books, we wouldn't have a video game publishing deal right now. So the books led to a video game deal. So that's pretty cool. So that's it for me on this video. I do thank you for tuning in. I'm trying to do a lot more of these more casual videos of just, peeking over my shoulder in my art studio. Please do feel free to ask questions in the comments below if you'd like to know about life as an artist or how to make a video game or how to create a comic. I'm going to have some more game development videos coming up this week, so don't forget to subscribe and come on back for the next one. Thank you so much.